Welcome to the Future Pulse podcast, where we dive into the world of innovation and technology. My name is Malika, and I'm the founder and director of SkillTalks, which is a global tech recruitment company partnering with companies in the AI space across the globe. Today, I have with me the legendary RC, who has recently been promoted to Chief People Officer at MIQ. Absolute pleasure to have you on here.
Thank you for having me, Malika. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise. So, tell the audience a bit more about yourself, what you do, and more about your background.
Yeah, as you said, am the recently promoted Chief People Officer at MIQ. We are an ad tech company, and a growing ad tech company, I will say, with a global presence. My job is what you can imagine when you think of the word Chief People Officer. I deal with all things people, whether that's recruitment and HR, business partnership, all the way through to when someone leaves MIQ, and making sure that that experience throughout is a positive one and reflects the values of the company. We like people to have a good experience no matter what part of the life cycle they're in, so to speak. So that's, a very high level of what I do, but it's people focused. It's making sure that this is the place where people want to come, where they want to stay, build their career, thrive, and, build a great business.
Awesome. So, what's some of the biggest shifts you've seen in terms of how HR operates across industries in the past decade? I'm sure there's been loads of shifts and changes.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the advent of more technology, that is certainly something that I've seen shifted. So moving from the days of paper performance evaluations to now tools such as Lattice and Workday has performance management tools, really using automated systems to try and help remove some of the administrative burden of some of the HR and people function tasks is the biggest shift that I've seen, and really starting to think about predictive analytics and things that can help us understand something happening before it happens, being, a lag measure, getting some lead measures in place. Those are the biggest shifts. And I think shifting the mindset, it's something that we try to do here in our people function, but shifting the mindset of HR as a service delivery
Right.
team to an actual partner to the business. Really trying to take that partnership word to its maximum capability, which means I'm working side by side, arm in arm, rather than you tell me that you need something and then we deliver that thing.
So, it's all about people, right? Same as probably my business, recruitment. Now, recruitment has changed a lot in the last few years, and I'm definitely using more AI tools more than ever. How does AI fit in terms of your HR strategy today?
As you can imagine, it's on the top of everyone's mind. It's everywhere in the content. I get pinged daily with, hey, there's this amazing tool that you could use for your HR process. Where it fits in our strategy is the idea of automation and efficiency, which should be a surprise to no one who's listening or thinking about this. But one of the things that I talk about frequently with the team is it has to work for our people. So it is not efficiency and automation for the sake of efficiency and automation. It is, how does this create a better experience for our people? If it saves us a lot of time on the HR admin side, but the employee experience on the other side is worse off for the automation, we're not going to do it. So it's really about enhancing the employee experience at its core and making these initiatives, processes, systems work better for our employees, not just for the HR team. That's really the strategy, is it comes down to that employee experience. Does this make their experience better? That's the ultimate question.
So it's more intentional then, you would say, in terms of the AI journey around MIQ and HR.
Yeah, I mean, it's very intentional in its focus. So, what does this look like in practice is a question that I ask a lot of the team. Okay, you want to save time on onboarding. Okay, what does that look like in practice? Let's map out that entire flow. Let's understand the points where we get stuck or where time, kind of wastes away. How do we speed that up by using AI? How do we make that a faster process? And at the same time, how do we get in the seat of the employee? What is that experience like for them? So again, not automation and AI just because it's the hot thing, but how does this create a better experience all around for everyone? So it's not willy-nilly.
Mhm.
The task that we have asked the team to think about is document the processes where time just kind of disappears and evaporates. those are prime moments for us to think about how AI can help in those moments. And then we will map back to those, think about where we can make the changes, and then do the analysis of, is it a better experience when we do this or a worse experience? And then iterate from there. So I'm not a big fan of, run fast and break things as a mentality, but I am a big fan of ideate, test, iterate. That's kind of the approach that I want the team to be thinking about.
Okay. Many HR leaders, I mean, I've spoken to a couple before, they tend to wait for proof points before adopting artificial intelligence. How do you approach that uncertainty? I mean, I know you kind of just do it, but what more do you do apart from that as well?
I think it goes back to that idea of ideate, test, and then
Yeah.
iterate, because I do believe you need to have some proof points, but we have some internal proof points at MIQ. We have a system internally that allows us to search our entire drive for information that could be of use, right? That is saving hours and hours of time for people. I can't tell you how many people come to me and be like, the other day I asked MIQ Home XYZ question, and the answer came back in 30 seconds. That's saving time for the HR team. It's saving time for the individual. It's very clear. So we have the proof point of when executed well, that it really can be powerful. And so it really is the let's test it and get the
Hmm.
data before we just adopt it blindly for the HR team. That's really the approach that we take. We are a company that has always pushed to the forefront. We believe in innovation. It's kind of core to who we are. And so that translates to the HR team as well.
Right. You kind of already touched up on this a bit already, but can you sort of share a really specific example or a decision that has been transformed by artificial intelligence at MIQ, even in the very smallest of ways?
Yeah, I think that, we have recently rolled out an enterprise-wide ERP system. And on the HR
Hmm.
side, there are a lot of tools that have automated steps that were before manual. So onboarding was
Right.
one I just talked about. We have gained efficiency in onboarding through the rollout of this tool. So in the past, where there was a welcome email that goes out and it has a list of tasks people need to do for pre-boarding, as we call it, we needed to usually manually trigger that in the past. Now that is an automatic trigger that happens, right? And that
Yeah.
message is designed by us. So it still is our voice. It's still us. It still says what we want to say and it welcomes the people and we want to welcome them. However, it is now something that the team no longer has to go through a checklist and say, check, that's done. The system is taking care of it. It's a tiny thing, but if it saves 3 minutes every time you onboard someone, and we onboard 100 people in a year, it's 300 minutes, right? People have gotten
Yeah.
time back. And if you multiply that across multiple steps in the process, you can see how that's really going to bring major time savings. And that's time savings that can be used to do the things that only humans can do.
Of
That's how
course.
I
No,
think about it.
absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned a lot about automation, but I think empathy is just as important and human connection, right? I'm sure you will agree on this. So how do you sort of ensure that the managers and the employees, within MIQ connect more and not less?
It's a great question and something that's on the top of my mind. Authenticity, empathy, core values of mine, but are values of the business as well. Something that we talk a lot about at MIQ is our AI strategy as a company is that we believe you can't have effective AI without effective human intelligence to build with it.
Right.
And I would add on that to say also the empathy piece, right? You need empathy to be able to director it, monitor it, and interpret it and make sense of what's happening in the system. And so being very thoughtful and intentional, again, that word, to make sure that we're not losing the human element of this. There are certain things AI can't do. If you have someone come to you because they have lost a loved one in the middle of the day unexpectedly, and they need care and comfort, AI is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
HR can do that. Their colleagues can do that. Humans can do that. If you have a complicated employee relations issue, so two people aren't getting along on a team, that is not something AI is going to solve. That is something that only a human can solve through conversation and dialogue and encouraging empathy, not just practicing it as ourselves, but encouraging it, encouraging the getting in other people's shoes. So empathy has to stay central and it rides alongside AI because AI, as of yet, cannot practice true empathy. in the way that a human can. And that is often the difference between a solution that gets something done and a solution that actually really solves a problem. Because it's the empathy piece is like the cherry on top. It's the thing that allows people to connect in a human way.
Yeah, that's so true and really valid there. So, what about within the HR community then? What advice would you give them when they're trying to implement some AI tools into their company or even their own journey?
I would say two things. So, one is don't fall for the shiny object. There are a lot of things right now that could be done. There's a
Yeah.
lot of promises being made by companies about what can be done. And so I would say don't fall for the trap of, ooh, that sounds amazing. Wouldn't it be cool if we could do that? And then signing up for it without doing the testing, without checking that it can do what you need it to do. And that travels with the second point, which is do not forget about the employee experience.
Yeah.
There are things, again, that could be automated, but the question is, should they be automated? And really being thoughtful about, are we making sure that this supercharges the experience and augments the experience rather than simply replaces an experience that was okay with an experience that is worse? But it's AI, right? Like that would be the fatal flaw, is to say, isn't it a cool process? And everyone's like, it's cool, but it's terrible. That's not what we want. We want people to say it's cool and it's seamless and it's invisible how it's being done. Those moments of magic where something just automatic happens and it's anticipatory. Those are the pieces that people really need to be thinking about when assessing whether or not implementing something is the right idea.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how can you sort of see AI evolving when it comes to people strategy also, within the next 18 months, even maybe sooner, 12 months?
Yeah, I think I mentioned anticipatory analytics,
Yeah.
predictive analytics. That's where I think I can really start to see the most power for AI is this ability to be examining data. And if we do it correctly, being able to flag to the team, you may not have picked up on this, human, but I, as a computer who can be awake 24 hours a day and think about this, I've noticed a red flag, maybe something for you to look into, right? So, again, that's sort of like hand in hand partnership of the AI being a co pilot, so to speak.
Yeah.
We're predicting and analyzing data so that we can try and spot things before they become lag measures and it's too late to make the correction or adjustment that we need to make. I think the other place that I think we could see real changes is agentic HR. There
Yeah.
is a company that we spoke to called Kinfolk recently. That's an interesting tool that they have an agent that they're saying could be like an HR coordinator. So that's an interesting thing to explore. Again, we're going to test, validate, iterate moment, and we're not looking to replace people. That's something MIQ talks about a lot. It's about, okay, saving time through that tool. How do we deploy that talent again in a way that only a human can be deployed and really being thoughtful and intentional about that. But I think those are the two places is automation, obviously, but then also the predictive analytics. How are they going to help us as a co-pilot to spot things maybe before we can spot them?
Hmm. Interesting. Well, it'd be good to see how that plays out in terms of the HR coordination across all businesses.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. Again, we're in the early conversations with them and have only really started the conversation. And again, I would go back to that advice that I have given earlier. Let's not fall for the shiny thing. It has to
Yeah.
work for our people, not just the HR people, but the entire people organization. Is it a better experience? Again, is the question I keep coming back to. Is it a better experience for our people? Then let's proceed.
Of course. So finally, how do you personally stay curious and grounded in a space that's changing this fast before you even blink? 'Cause that's how it feels for me.
It is moving very fast. So I'm an avid reader. So I try to read as much as I can about the technology, about the advancements in the technology. I speak to my network. How are you using it? What have you seen be good and not good? And then also something that we talk about internally with the HR people team all the time is there's really only one way forward here, and that's forward. So we
Yeah.
can pretend that we will not be impacted by AI, that things will not change. That's a little bit like burying our head in the sand. The reality is this technology is already shaping some of the ways that we work. again, those low-hanging automations, that's where it begins. It's already shaping. Staying grounded as a human means understanding what's happening. There's a bit of fear at times, and I think that's when you don't understand. But the more that you understand, the more you can stay grounded and confident in what you can do as a human and how this is a tool that can be used to your advantage rather than something scary that's just going to take over your job and take over the world. So that's how I stay grounded, is the curiosity of saying, I need to understand this better. Let's read about it. Let's learn about it. And then grounding myself in, okay, now that I know how it works, now I can actually understand how I can deploy it to my advantage.
Interesting insights. Thank you so much for jumping on this podcast, Arsi.
Thank you for having me, Malika. It's a important conversation, and I think a lot of people are having it. So I
Yeah,
appreciate the invitation to have this chat.
of course.